Hello everyone, this is Jason from STEM Nerds. Thank you so much for being here. In today's video, we are going to be talking about protozoans. They are the weirdest cells. They're not algae, they're not fungi, they're single-celled organisms that don't fit neatly into other categories. I like to call the protozoans as kind of like the dumping ground of the classification system. If they don't fit nice and neatly into the other types of organisms, they wind up in this can called the protozoans, but they are remarkably interesting, and I'm going to talk about why. Thanks for being here. So the protozoans belong to a larger group called the protists. And like I said, the protists are a dumping ground of the classification system. Protists can be either a single or multicellular, but our focus is going to be on the protozoans, which are exclusively single-celled organisms. The reason why protozoans are so interesting is they form foundational components of the food chain in so many different ecosystems, which is a great thing. But there are also a lot of potential parasites, things like malaria and African sleeping sickness and giardia. Some of the most deadly parasites on Earth are actually protozoans. Now, protozoans are eukaryotic organisms, so that means they have a nucleus and they have membrane-bound organelles, and this is something that we've talked about before in previous videos. So if you don't know what a eukaryotic organism is, I highly recommend check out the videos we've done on eukaryotic cells. But these organisms, generally speaking, have most, if not all, of the organelles we've discussed. Like I said, most importantly, a membrane-bound nucleus. They often have an endomembrane system that consists of both the rough and the smooth ER. The rough ER is responsible for making proteins. The smooth ER is responsible for synthesizing lipids and storing calcium and detoxification. Being a eukaryotic organism, many have a Golgi, which is responsible for processing proteins and making sure that they are ready to go when they are secreted from a cell or embedded in a membrane. They're going to have vesicles and vacuoles. Many of them, although not all, have mitochondria responsible for making ATP. They have lysosomes for the breakdown of organic compounds. Many of them have peroxisomes that break down hydrogen peroxide. The vast majority are going to have some type of a cytoskeleton as well. And of course, they're going to have a cell membrane that separates the inside from the outside of the cell. Usually, protozoans are going to have some way to get around their environment. In other words, they're going to be motile, whether that is through flagella or cilia, depends on the protozoan. Often protozoans, because they spend their time in aquatic environments, they are going to rely heavily on contractile vacuoles. So if water is coming into the cell, they can get rid of that water. If they're in a freshwater environment, they're going to have lots of food vacuoles for storage of food. They're also going to have this thing called a pellicle, which is often going to be exterior to the membrane and provide added protection from environmental factors. Some protozoans, if they are photosynthetic, may also have chloroplasts that are designed to harvest light energy and then eventually make ATP, which is the energy currency inside the cell. But protozoans can get a little strange, and they have these specialized organelles called extrusomes. And one of the most important, I think one of the weirdest, is this thing called a trichocyst, which is defensive. It's a defense mechanism that helps protect the protozoans from larger predatory organisms. And I like to think of this as almost like a porcupine. When you sneak up on it, it shoots out all of its quills. Well, that's the same thing that happens here. These protozoans have little spikes that they can release that makes it really difficult to eat the protozoan. They may have mucocysts and toxocysts, and these things may help them attach. But again, it just might make them really impossible for other organisms to eat them. Metabolically, some of them have glycosomes and hydrogenosomes, and these are very similar to mitochondria but help these organisms produce ATP, particularly in anaerobic, oxygen-lacking environments. When it comes to replication, protozoans can be very interesting. We said that they're eukaryotic, and we might expect them to go through the process of mitosis, being a single-celled organism, and many do that. If you haven't studied mitosis, again, we've done videos on that before, but basically they're going through the process of prophase, prometaphase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and the two resultant cells should be genetically identical. But there are other mechanisms of replication for this rather diverse group of organisms, one of them being fission. And that fission can come in a variety of different aspects, one of which is binary fission, where the cell copies its genetic material and for the most part splits in two. This can be something that happens in protozoans that are a little bit more simple in terms of their internal components and their internal anatomy. There is multiple fission, where you actually have a cell that divides its nuclei multiple times and then basically creates little mini cells inside of a larger one, and that larger cell, what's left of it, breaks open and releases a lot of other cells. That can happen with malaria. Some protozoans will go through what is known as a budding process, where a smaller cell just kind of buds and then breaks off from the larger cell. And yes, there are protozoans that go through sexual reproduction in the form of conjugation. So the bottom line is when we're looking at and appreciating life in general, we're used to hearing about all kinds of multicellular organisms, and we've talked about bacteria at length on this channel as well. But I don't want to forget these interesting little guys that maybe they don't fit nice and neat into other categories of life, but they are remarkably diverse, and in fact, it is the most diverse group of organisms that we have, and from a single-celled perspective, they are some of the most complex organisms ever. Now, we are going to be doing some videos where we focus on specific protozoans here in the near future. As always, thank you so much for being here. Have a great week.